Thanks for tuning in, everybody. My name is Brock Page, and you might be surprised as to who I'm picking in the NBA today. If you just can't wait and you want to save yourself some time, check out my picks for this video in the description section below. Once again, I have to remind you that I am not a sports betting expert, nor do I implore you to take any of my picks. A wise man once said, good ain't free, and free ain't good. If for some reason you decide to use the information on this program, you're utilizing it at your own discretion. And with that said, let's get into some picks for March 13th. First game I have for you, it is going to be Chicago at Charlotte. The betting opened up with Charlotte as the 5-point favorites and the total points at 203.5. Since then, the spread has jumped up 2 points and the total points have dropped down 3.5. Right now, we're looking at Charlotte -7 against the spread, with the total points dropping down to an even 200. Currently, Charlotte's heavily favored, laying 300 on the money line. And at the moment, 57% of the money's on Chicago to get the job done against the spread. Although Chicago's record is slightly better, they've hit a real rough spot, losing in and failing to cover in their last 5 straight games. They've also covered just 9 of 25 versus teams under 500. Chicago's games have also gone under the total posted points in their last 6 straight. All that said, I'm ready to make my picks for this game, and I'm taking Charlotte -7 against the spread. When it comes to the total points, I'm taking the under 200. And when it comes to the money line cash, I'm taking the Charlotte Hornets, winning this one outright at home. Next game I have for you, it is going to be Dallas at Toronto. The betting in this game opened up with Toronto as the 5-point favorites, with the total points posted at an even 200. Since then, Toronto's now -4.5 against the spread, with the total points dropping down to 196. Currently, the Raptors are significantly favored, laying 200 on the money line, and at the moment, 65% of the money's on the Raptors to get the job done against the spread. Speaking of Toronto, they're facing a Dallas team who's failed to cover in their last 2 games. The Mavs have also covered just 13 of 29 as the official road underdog. Both teams' games have gone under the total posted points in 3 of their last 4. All that said, I'm in full agreement with the bettors, and I'm taking Toronto -4.5, getting the job done against the spread. When it comes to the total points, I'm taking the under 196. And when it comes to the money line cash, I'm taking the Toronto Raptors, winning this one outright at home. Next game, Milwaukee at Memphis. The betting opened up with Milwaukee as the 5.5-point favorites, with the total points at 204. Since then, Memphis is now -4 against the spread, with the total points dropping down to 199. Currently, Memphis is laying 175 on the money line, and at the moment, 60% of the money's on Memphis to get the job done against the spread. Although favored, the Grizzlies are ice cold right now, losing their last 5 straight games. In those games, they also failed to cover the spread in all 5 of them as well. They're facing a Milwaukee team who's been white hot in the win column, getting the W in their last 6 straight games. The Bucks have also successfully covered the spread in all 6 of those wins. Alongside of that, Milwaukee's games have gone under the total posted points in 8 of their last 9. All that said, I'm ready to make my picks for this game, and I'm taking Milwaukee +4, getting the job done against the spread. When it comes to the total points, I'm taking the under 199. And when it comes to the money line cash, I'm looking for the Memphis Grizzlies to get back on track and win this one outright in a real tight game. Next game I have for you, it is going to be Washington at Minnesota. This one opened up as a pick'em contest with the total points at 214. Since then, Minnesota's now -2 against the spread, with the total points jumping up to 214.5. Minnesota's slightly favored, laying 125 on the money line, and at the moment, 63% of the money's back on Washington to get the job done against the spread, so look for that number to possibly get back to the pick'em. Speaking of Washington, they successfully covered in their first meeting with Minnesota and have won 7 of their last 8 games. They're facing a Minnesota team who covers just 28% of their games at the current point spread. Both teams are collectively averaging 223 total combined points in their last 4 games respectively. In addition to that, Washington's last 6 games have gone over the line as well. All that said, I'm ready to make my picks for this game, and I'm taking Washington +2, getting the job done against the spread. When it comes to the total points, I'm taking the over 214.5. And when it comes to the money line cash, I'm taking Washington, winning this one outright in a close one. I'm also adjusting the line and taking Washington plus 12 as the first pick in my 10-point Sweetheart Super Teaser number 1. I'm also moving the line once again and taking the over 204.5 as the second pick of my 10-point teaser number 1. Next game, Atlanta at San Antonio. The betting opened up with San Antonio as the 6.5-point favorites with the total points at an even 200. Since then, the San Antonio Spurs are now -7 against the spread, with the total points jumping up to 201.5. Currently, the Spurs are heavily favored, laying 300 on the money line. And at the moment, 68% of the bettors are counting on San Antonio to get the job done against the spread. Although heavily favored, San Antonio has failed to cover in 3 of their last 4. Along with failing to cover in their first matchup, they're facing an Atlanta team who covers a respectable 67% at the current point spread. Atlanta's also they've won their last 3 games, successfully covering in 2 of those last 3. Both teams' games have gone under the line in 2 of their last 3. All that said, I'm ready to make my picks for this matchup, and I'm taking the Atlanta Hawks plus 7, getting the job done against the spread. When it comes to the total points, I'm taking the under 201.5. And when it comes to the money line cash, I'm taking the San Antonio Spurs, winning this one outright in a close one. I'm also adjusting the line and taking Atlanta plus 17 as the third pick of my 10-point teaser. LA Clippers plus 1 at Utah, with the total points dropping down to a cool 200.5. Currently, Utah is slightly favored, laying 115 on the money line. And at the moment, there's an even 50-50 split on where the money's going with regard to the spread. Speaking of the spread, this Clippers team is covering a quality 67% of their games at the current posted point spread. They're also covering a respectable 67% versus teams allowing less than 99 points a game. They're facing a Utah squad who's not only failed to cover in their first 2 matchups, but they've also failed to cover in 3 of their last 4 games against others. Utah's also covered just 11 of 29 as the official home favorite and just 10 of 25 against teams over 500. In addition to that, Utah games have gone over the line in 3 of their last 4. All that said, I'm ready to make my picks for this matchup, and I'm taking the LA Clippers plus 1 against the spread. When it comes to the total points, I'm taking the over 200.5. And when it comes to the money line cash, I'm taking the LA Clippers, winning this one outright on the road in a tough one. Oddly enough, I'm also adjusting the line and taking the Utah Jazz plus 9 as the 4th and final pick of my 10-point teaser number 1. I'm also moving the line and taking the over 192.5 in a 3-team 8-point Sweetheart teaser number 2. Next game, LA Lakers at Denver. The betting opened up with Denver as the 8.5-point favorites with the total points at 231. Since then, Denver's now minus 13.5 with the total points at an even 230. And currently, Denver's playing Goliath, laying 1,300 on the money line. Speaking of Denver, they've done a good job against the number, covering 3 out of their last 4 games. They're facing a Lakers team who's covered just 20% of their games at or around this massive point spread. They've also failed to cover in 3 of their last 4 games. Both teams have collectively averaged just 219 total combined points in their previous 4 games, respectively. Denver games have also gone under the line in 3 of their last 4. All that said, I'm ready to make my picks for this matchup, and I'm taking the heavily favored Denver Nuggets minus 13.5, getting the job done against the spread. When it comes to the total points, I'm taking the under 230. And when it comes to the money line cash, I'm taking Denver, winning this one outright at home. I'm also adjusting the line and taking the under 238 in my 3-team 8-point teaser number 2. Next and final game for the show, Orlando at Sacramento. The betting opened up with Orlando as the 1-point favorite with the total points at 207.5. Since then, Sacramento's now minus 1 against the spread with the total points dropping down to an even 207. Currently, the Kings are slightly favored, laying 120 on the money line, and at the moment, 60% of the bettors think Sacramento will get the job done against the spread. Speaking of the Kings, they're facing an Orlando team who's covered just 1 of their last 4 and just 36% at the current point spread. The Magic have also covered just 36% versus teams allowing more than 1 or 2 a game. In addition to that, Orlando's covered just 10 of 29 games against teams under 500. When it comes to the total points, both teams have collectively averaged 213 total combined points in their last 4 games respectively. Sacramento games have also gone over the line in 2 of their last 3. All that said, I'm in full agreement with the bettors, and I'm taking Sacramento -1, getting the job done against the spread. When it comes to the total points, I'm taking the over 207. And when it comes to the money line cash, I'm taking Sacramento winning this one outright at home. I'm also adjusting the line and taking the over 199 as the third and final pick of my 8-point super teaser number 2. Just a reminder, my 8 and 10-point sweetheart super teasers pay 5 to 6 and get graded as a loss should any game result in a push. You can find this exotic wager in several online sports books and in the state of Delaware. Well, folks, that is going to do it for me. Once again, I have to remind you that I am not a sports betting expert, nor do I implore you to take any of my picks. A wise man once said, good ain't free, and free ain't good. If for some reason you decide to use the information on this program, you're utilizing it at your own discretion. Most importantly, if you're betting any of these games, do it safe, do it responsibly, and most important, have fun. For Brock Page Predictions and Sports Picks, I'm Brock Page, and have yourself a positive day.